Hey everybody, I have a follow-up video to the one I just did, and just because of what I read on the following pages from that book I shared on the mastaba down at southern Saqqara. This is a great follow-up video, and it's a strange day in Las Vegas. I'm not sure what's going on outside, but I think people call that rain. So I'm going to do another pyramid video, and a lot of you, I'm sure, don't know about a pyramid on the eastern shore of the Nile. And this is a place called Zayat el Mayatin, and this is where it is located. And it appears to me there could be a necropolis down here, and there is the remains are pretty good, intact remains of a pyramid. It looks like possibly there could have been a causeway, maybe, but this is all that is left. This is relatively small. This is attributed to Huni of the 3rd dynasty. And let's just go over to a website here. And this describes it here. This small pyramid, about 7 kilometers south of the administrative center of Middle Egypt, Minya, is the only one that is located on the east bank of the Nile. The pyramid, whose ruins today reach a height of scarcely 5 meters, was built of limestone bound with mortar made of mud, sand, and lime. In 1911, the pyramid was investigated by Raymond Weil and later by Philip Lawler. This pyramid is ascribed to Pharaoh Huni, as he is thought to possess numerous step cenotaphs. And there are theories of other places he built, and you notice there are listing pyramids here, and this is listed right after the strange one that the city encroached up at Abu Ruwash. And let's read a little bit about Huni. And here is the different attributions to him. The Saqqara table, the Turin canon that some of you are familiar with, but when you go back and try to put together of these early pharaohs, really not much is known. And a lot of this is done basically on guessing, but it's guesses. His burial place, but it guesses here his burial place is the pyramid at Meidum, with that strange, identical, massive mastaba, is the one I just showed you down in southern Saqqara. And the ruler that they say is previous to him, Kaaba, well, of course, he is associated to the pyramids up at Zayat el Aryan. And these pyramids are pretty much restricted or covered up with trash today. And just really quickly, there's a strange account that Huni was responsible for small satellite pyramids at Abu Ruwash, and I have no idea what they're talking about there. Now, I looked in the documents and the books from the people who were there in the 1800s, and they didn't mention anything in Abu Ruwash about Huni and satellite pyramids, but they did mention one sentence that caught my eye, and they said the structures at Abu Ruwash were much more ancient than the structures of Giza. Now, once again, here is the overhead look at this pyramid attributed to Huni, and this is strangely connected to other pyramids I have featured lately, but has kind of the same angle as that small original structure I showed you at Giza from a few weeks ago. So, time to take a look at that. Now, here's that structure at Giza, and to my eye, this looked like some sort of original pyramid. This is what it looked like. Mud brick built on top of a base that is cut right into the ground that certain researchers have compared to the carving out of the Sphinx enclosure. And if you do a 3D view here, you can see perfectly how really there wasn't much built on the causeway coming down, because that is considered sacred by the dynastic Egyptians who put in the necropolis. You can see that, except for one thing here. But what I read about this, and where I read about this, I thought was pretty fascinating. Now let's just go over to a book. Now, I was very surprised when reading about the large mastaba down in southern Saqqara. The very next pages were on Khentkawes, the first step tomb at Giza. What I said about a week ago or so was an original structure at Giza. So why he was going on to this, I was very fascinated, so I think I'll just read. It says, the large two-step tomb structure near Menkare's Valley Temple was thought by some Egyptologists to be the fourth pyramid in Giza. This was, for an example, Perryn's view, but not that of Lepsius, who listed it among the private tombs and designated it as 100 on his map. Until the 1930s, some archaeologists, for instance Holscher, and at first Reisner as well, maintained that this structure was an unfinished pyramid built by Menkare's successor, Shep Seskef, the very man whose attribution is labeled to the large mastaba down in southern Saqqara. It says, not until 1932 was Selim Hassan able to show that it belonged to Queen Mother Khentkawes I, and that is from the upper structure. It says the superstructure consists of two steps, the lower of the two, which has the form of a low truncated pyramid, was built by cutting and preparing the rock outcropping. And they just removed rock from around a little mound and formed this little perfect little pyramid. And that is exactly how the Sphinx is formed. Rock was removed from around it. And studies have said it's really the same strata as the Sphinx was cut out. A lot of similarities. It says originally the surfaces of all four side walls were decorated with niches resembling false doors. And it says a huge gateway of pink granite bearing Khentkawes' name and titles provided access to the tomb from the southeast. In the antechamber were the entrances into the rooms on the west and the north. So what clearly happened to me in the 5th dynasty, this queen put something on top of a very ancient structure, and that took some guts, and then kind of put her decorations in the lower original structure that was original to Giza and considered sacred because there is a necropolis around it. It says the substructure has an original architecture. In some ways it resembles a private tomb, in others a royal tomb, particularly that of Menkare, and perhaps that of Shep Seskef as well. It includes 6 small storerooms, and that's identical to the large mastaba, ironically, down at Saqqara, near the burial chamber, which has a pair of false doors. Apart from a few fragments of an alabaster sarcophagus, Hassan was not able to find any traces of the queen's burial. Interesting, there was an alabaster sarcophagus originally in this place. It goes on to say, not long after it was completed, the tomb was substantially altered, probably during the first half of the 5th dynasty. Over the west half of the tomb, a limestone structure with an oblong plan that resembled a mastaba was built. It says it was intentionally not placed over the center of the tomb since its weight might have ruptured the ceilings of the chambers in the lower part. Thus, a 2-step structure of an unusual form resulted. Its side walls were sheathed with blocks of fine white limestone. A perimeter wall of plastered and whitewashed mud bricks ran around the tomb. So some people actually call this an unfinished pyramid, and some people call this a royal tomb or a private tomb. And here is what the internal structure looks like. And this is what I really wanted to find, what it looked like inside of this. A slight descending shaft down to what they say is a burial chamber, but is this symbolic? There was an alabaster sarcophagus in here at one time. And here is another cross-section from the north-south view. So I find that pretty interesting. But then it says here, it cannot be precisely determined whether a boat pit and across from it a cistern were dug during the construction of the original rock-cut tomb, or during a later modification of the tomb. And to me, clearly, if a queen put her tomb on top of this, people were trying to attach their legacies to this original structure, and that's why the boat pit was put in, just like at Abu Rawash, just like in front of the Great Pyramid. And it says, a narrow staircase led into the cistern, and a small drainage canal led out of the space in front of the tomb. Hassan thought it was originally a roofed-over basin used for mummifying rituals. And with that sentence, I can connect this original structure to some original text coming from the earliest Egyptians. Some things are becoming very clear to me. That was the key sentence. that is just a look at a pyramid on the eastern side of the Nile, an update on this original structure at Giza. Once again, some things are becoming clear. Other things remain a mystery. Hope you thought this was interesting, and you all have a very nice day.